Today's episode of the Island Archives podcast is brought to you by Old Road Rum. Old Road Rum is driven by a desire to celebrate the cultural history of St. Kitts and Nevis and is tropically aged for 12 years to present the pure expression of a well-crafted rum.
On today's episode of the Island Archive podcast, we review a tragic tale of a modern-day Samson. Bertil Fox was born in 1951 in St. Kitts and emigrated to England at the age of 1. Thanks to motivation from a cousin, he decided to enter the bodybuilding arena as a teenager. Fox quickly had success, as he won the Mr. Junior Britain title in 1969 at the age of 18. He finally joined the professional ranks in 1978, but not before securing a plethora of titles while competing at the amateur and semi-pro level, all while working as a train driver on the London Underground. Imagine Hulk being your captain. By 1979, he had bagged the Mr. Universe title twice, and then turned his sights on the coveted Mr. Olympia title. He placed 8th on his first try, which at the time was a huge deal for Fox, as the Olympia crown had gained incredible popularity in the 70s because of the cult-like following and dominance of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Joe Weider, often referred to as the father of bodybuilding, sponsored Fox's move to Los Angeles in 1981, where he would compete in several competitions for the next 15 years. His extensive training regimen was the stuff of legend, and this period earned him the nickname Brutal Bertil, which at the time was celebrated, but ended up being painfully ironic. His crowning achievement was placing 5th in Mr. Olympia in 1983, where he probably was just past his prime at the age of 32. Remember, sports science wasn't really a thing back then. He retired just over a decade later and returned to St. Kitts, where he opened Fox's Gym in the summer of 1995. Now, this is where it gets dark. In September 1997, disaster struck as Fox's ex-fiancée beauty queen, Leoka Brown, along with her mother, Violet Brown, were shot and killed by the famous bodybuilder. He was charged with double homicide and imprisoned without bail. A few months later, Fox's trial led him to facing the death penalty, and he testified that the shootings were accidental in nature due to a struggle with Violet Brown over his gun. In May of 1998, he was initially convicted to death by hanging. However, a successful appeal to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council ruled that this punishment violated humanitarian rights, and his sentence was downgraded to life in prison, where he remains to this day. Unfortunately, inspiring stories do not always have inspiring endings, and Bertil Fox's story serves as a cautionary tale and solemn reminder that sometimes, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
The Island Archive podcast is a Pelican Media Group production and is brought to you by Old Road Rum. To hear more, log on to www.islandarchive.com or check us out on all streaming platforms.